Simple Ted and the Polaroid sunglasses. Ted wasn't one for fancy things. His ball cap was always the same white one he'd had since who knows when, and his boat, a Sea Pro with the paint faded by sun and salt, ran on more heart than horsepower. Folks called him Simple Ted, not out of meanness, but because he had a way of keeping life honest and plain. One warm June morning, Ted stopped into the Walmart to pick up some new line. He wasn't planning on buying sunglasses, but there they were. Dark lenses, wide frame, $10 and change. The tag said polarized, but Ted squinted at it and said, "Well, I'll be." Polaroid sunglasses. He chuckled and tossed them in the cart like he'd found treasure. The next morning, he launched from a quiet bend in the James River just after sunrise. The water was calm, just a light ripple where the wind kissed it. He eased out into a familiar spot where he'd fished with his pawpaw years and years ago. Ted put on his Polaroid sunglasses for the first time and leaned over the side of the boat. What he saw made him go still. It was like the water had vanished. Below the surface, clear as glass, he could see the sandy bottom, patches of oyster shell and rock. Bluegill and stripers drifted by like ghosts. A big old catfish moved slow in the shadows. He watched a crab click-clack sideways, leaving a trail like a little tractor. "Would you look at that?" he whispered, voice barely more than the wind. He sat down on the cooler and just watched. He didn't even cast his line for a good long while. Something about seeing it all, the hidden life beneath the river he'd known all his life, stirred something quiet and deep in him, like he'd finally been let in on a secret the river had kept since boyhood. He thought of his pawpaw and how they used to sit on these waters, guessing at what might be swimming below. Ted smiled, and for a moment he could almost hear the old man's laugh. When the sun climbed higher, he finally stood and cast a line. The fish were biting that day, but even if they hadn't been, it wouldn't have mattered. He'd already caught something better. From that day on, he wore his Polaroid sunglasses on every trip, and every time someone tried to correct him, he'd just grin and say, "Yeah, I know what they're called, but these are Polaroid. They show you more than just fish. They show you what you've been missing."